Hello, I am so excited to talk today about habit stacking, one of my favorite topics to cover. This is something that I cover with literally any client that I have in a nutrition or personal training setting. And it's so essential for so many things in health that we really look at our small habits and how these things compound over time. So I'm Kelly Hansen. I'm a registered dietitian and personal trainer. I practice what is called functional nutrition or functional medicine. Sometimes it's called more of an integrative approach to health. And what this means is that I am always looking at what is the root cause to my clients' issues? What can we do beyond just food? Food is so important, but are there underlying imbalances in different body systems? Can we use lab work to assess these things? Can we use supplements? Is it more of a mind-body disconnection? Is there something with our hunger or our stress? There's so many things we can look at, and that is a really big part of what I'm doing along with developing habits. So let's get into the topic of what habits are, which ones you should prioritize specifically for weight loss, what is metabolic health, review a few of those terms, what is habit stacking, and what habits should we be avoiding. Okay, so to redefine these terms that hopefully you've heard if you are on a weight loss journey, but if you are just getting started and you maybe don't feel like you've had a great amount of education from your doctors, you haven't done a lot of research on your own, it's really important to understand what is your metabolic rate? What does that mean? So that relates to the amount of calories you are burning at rest, so without doing any physical activity. And there is a lot of confusion, I think, around exercise and how that contributes to the metabolic rate. So I usually divide this into three things, and I have a really great visual that I'll share that shows that about 70% of our metabolic rate is just coming from like our muscle mass, our age, genetics. And so that's and our hormones too. So things like our insulin and hunger hormones influence this. And so that's why those are some things that I really help people to learn about is how do they build and maintain muscle mass on a weight loss journey because it does impact about 70% of our calorie needs, right? So if we go on to lose too much muscle mass and our metabolism slows down, then it's just like we're not going to be able to eat as many calories and continue that weight loss. So it's inefficient, right? And so our exercise really only makes up about 10 to 15% and other daily movement, whether that is you work on your feet, you're doing housework, even just getting up and down throughout the day. Like even if you're at a desk job, you still have additional calories burned from movement, but that's about 10 to 15% of your overall calorie needs. And then the last part is the thermic effect of food, which is how much food energy it takes for us to digest our food. And so protein actually does take more energy to digest. So that is one reason why eating more protein can help us to lose weight. So again, that the total daily energy expenditure is going to be our BMR plus daily activity level and also the thermic effect of food, which is really small. So I didn't put that on there. Then calorie deficit. This is when we are eating a little bit below our metabolic needs. So this is typically something we want to do to lose weight. We do need to be in a slight calorie deficit. So the more activity you are doing, the higher your calorie deficit would go. But we also don't want to be in the calorie deficit for too long, and we don't want to jump there too quickly. So that's a lot of what I'm working on with people is figuring out what is their baseline calorie intake. I see a lot of people with pretty irregular, inconsistent calorie intake. And then I also see a lot of people who have really dysregulated blood sugar and insulin. So if you haven't watched some of my content on blood sugar and insulin, definitely go back and watch that. I really go into what that means and how that is going to impact things like inflammation, energy levels, other hormones. Really bit important for people struggling with fertility that we regulate blood sugar. Because the insulin hormone, I call it the queen hormone, it's going to influence a lot of other hormones in our body. So that is why, yes, calories matter, but we also need to understand how eating our protein, fat, carb, and fiber will impact our blood sugar. So again, making sure that we are just understanding macronutrients and how we can do a little bit of tracking. So, as I said, with calories, they do matter, but we want to watch out for some of these symptoms that could mean we are too low in overall calories. So low energy, sleep changes, hair loss, mood swings, constipation, menstrual changes. These all might mean that we need to get a little bit higher in calories. and we want to focus still on the quality of those calories. These also could relate to micronutrient, vitamin, mineral deficiencies as well. So now that you have a little more review of some of those key terms, let's get into the habits associated with long-term weight loss. So as a dietitian, I really got nailed into my brain in school that I needed to know how to interpret research, nutrition science, exercise science, health research, epidemiological studies, so population-based studies. And so I do read a lot of research and think about how I can really apply this to my clients' lives. And so I chose these specific habits that have all been researched in different ways because I think that they do apply to many people on a weight loss journey. But there's still going to be things that might be missing from this list or that might not be what you need to focus on. But as I talked about, exercise really with a focus to build muscle is where I want people to think more about. Cardio exercise is great too, walking, biking, swimming. It's going to still like use your muscles, but it's not going to be as effective for building muscle and using different types of muscle fibers. So we can definitely do both. Is going to have great health effects. Meal planning with anti-inflammatory foods, which I will go more into what that means. Food tracking. So I do think that doing some form of tracking is really important. Like you're not going to try to save a bunch of money for something if you don't have a budget, right? You're going to be tracking those things. So it's kind of same with food. We do want to know what our budget is and how much our body can fluctuate from that. And so tracking is just like another data point. I like to use the Cronometer app is a great one. I have a special app that my clients use that allows them to do photo tracking, meaning that they don't always have to input every ingredient. There's also MyFitnessPal is a good one. So figuring out what's going to work for you and how diligent you can be with tracking, or if you do want to do something a little more flexible, like maybe you do just start with tracking your protein. You start by just tracking how many times you're eating a day. Maybe you're focusing on just eating 3 times a day. So there's a lot of different things we could track, but doing something along those lines is going to be helpful. Also, building a positive relationship with food. So we do really need to think of food as a form of self-care and make sure that our changes are sustainable and something that we can continue for a long time. So that goes into the better alternatives to things like sugar, alcohol, processed fats, which are typically found in a lot of foods when we are going out to eat, as well as a lot of processed foods. Condiments are going to have some of these more highly processed fats. And when I'm looking for fats, I have a great list of the different types that I can share with you if you are interested in that. Reach out to me, message me on Facebook, Instagram, email me, and I will share this. But what I really try to avoid is the vegetable oils, so canola, corn, soy, and choosing more of the olive oil, avocado oil, which yes, those are both still vegetables, but that's typically just what they're referred to in the nutrition world. Is the vegetable oils are more processed. They're coming from things that don't really seem oily, right? Like corn is not oily. Soybeans are not oily, whereas avocado and olive, they are just naturally oily. So they are just extracting that natural oil. Same with like coconut oil, butter. Those are just natural things we've been using for centuries. And so the next one on the list is finding accountability. So working with a registered dietitian, working with somebody who can keep you accountable to the changes you say you're going to make. And then enjoying the lifestyle changes, making it a lifestyle. Okay. So before we get into what habit stacking really is, it's important to know what do I mean by anti-inflammatory foods. So I've done some series on my experience with inflammation and how it was contributing to cystic acne, menstrual issues, and how changing to a more whole foods, meat, produce-based diet really, really helped me. I also started eating less overall sugar and just eating less frequently, focusing more on meals over grazing, things that helped regulate my blood sugar, which, like I said, connects to inflammation in many ways. And so a few of the anti-inflammatory diets that have been really well researched are Mediterranean diet, paleo diet, more ancestral diet, which if you look into the Weston A. Price Foundation, they have some really great information on. how to eat in a just more unprocessed type of a way. But all different cultures will have some form of this. And so it doesn't have to be Mediterranean. Like there are so many ways that you can eat an anti-inflammatory diet. What they do all have in common is that they have a lot of fiber and plant-based foods. They have some forms of protein, they have some forms of anti-inflammatory oils. So all of these things are going to be seen in different types of diets. And when we talk about supporting the gut microbiome, the bacteria lining our intestines, that is one of the main reasons that eating fruits and vegetables is so important. Yes, they're low in calories, but you can eat a low calorie diet that's all meat and cheese, and you're not going to have the same benefits for your gut microbiome as if you add in fruits and vegetables. Okay, so even if you do boost your calories a little bit with that, you're going to have a lot more benefits because our gut produces all of these amazing compounds for our brain, anti-inflammatory compounds, so many things we can't even really begin right now to get into. That's a whole other podcast, but they are just so important. And so one other point to know about gut health and inflammation is that sometimes if we do have impaired gut health, meaning we have over time, there has been damage that has occurred to the lining of our gut. This is sometimes referred to as leaky gut. So there's just different foods are causing more reaction, causing more inflammation. And it doesn't necessarily mean that these are all unhealthy foods, but we might need to do some form of elimination diet, gut healing. And so that's what I do in my practice is I assess for these things to figure out what solutions we can find through either just eliminations or doing different lab analysis. So it's not always a cut and dry, black and white. This is why you're inflamed. There's a lot of things we need to look at and rule out. Okay. And so that is really just what I wanted to touch on there. So let's get into habit stacking and what that means. So the book Atomic Habits is where this idea is pulled from, and it's a great book, great read. If you haven't checked it out. And a few things that I really took away from this book, read it back after college when I was really starting to dive into my own health and wellness and building out my day, figuring out what I wanted my life to look like, and realizing that like it does take work. It does take some experimentation to build a healthy lifestyle that works for you. And so one of the things he brings up is choosing identity-based habits over outcome-based habits. And this is the example is telling yourself, I am somebody who does this. So that's the goal we really want to focus on is becoming that type of person who achieves that goal or who sustains that habit. So rather than saying, my goal is to lose 20 pounds, think about the steps that are going to get you there, like the habits we talked about, and continuously be telling yourself, I am somebody who meal preps. I am somebody who enjoys eating healthy. I am somebody who effortlessly loses weight and goes to the gym. Things like that. Then another thing he talks about is just focusing on becoming 1% better every day. Just small changes, okay? There's a lot of information that we can be taking from this presentation, but we can't do it all at once. And so it will take time and just focus on 1% better every day. The next one is forgetting about goals and instead focusing on systems. This is also so important for business life, for work, or for health, for so many things, okay? We have to figure out the systems. How are we going to get this done? For example, when are you going to grocery shop? Each week? Can it be the same time? Can you figure out a pretty consistent meal plan that works for you, that hits your calories and macros, and then make minor tweaks, change the flavors up, but keep it really consistent. Keep it easy. When are you going to go to the gym? Who are you going to have build your workouts? Things like that. How are we going to make it efficient and intentional? And then the 4 laws of behavior change. So we're going to explain these here now of how do we really change a behavior? What does that mean? What does that look like? How do our brains get into bad habits and how do we get back to more supportive habits of our goals? Okay, I don't like the terms bad and good, but in this instance, we are just thinking about how can we build really good habits. So the first law is the cue. This is what triggers the brain to initiate a behavior. So this is when we either see something or smell something or hear something that causes us to think about doing a behavior. And this takes some self awareness to figure out what are my cues. We do want to work backwards and figure this out. So, an example of a non goal supportive habit cue would be seeing sweets in your kitchen, right? If you're always used to having a treat after dinner and you want to start decreasing sugar, then you need to be aware that when you see it, you're going to think about doing that, and that's going to cause you some stress. Whereas a more goal supportive habit might be having a list of your daily habits. When you are brushing your teeth in the morning, you see this, you know that you're going to um, have this amount of sugar, you're going to have this amount of whatever. Okay, then the next one is a craving. So after the cue, then we have the craving. That's really what motivates us to do the behavior. So we don't crave the habit, but the change in state that it delivers. Habits are attractive when we associate them with positive feelings. So on a weight loss journey, we want to teach our bodies and our minds to crave different things, to crave eating the vegetables, eating the healthy meal, cooking us a meal, doing a workout. And so, a couple tools that we can incorporate to change these cravings are to pair something difficult, something we don't naturally crave, with something that we do. So, for example, putting a treadmill in our living room so then we can walk and do our workout while we're watching our favorite show or listening to our favorite podcast or something. Another one would be just seeking out support from somebody so that you're able to have that human connection, that support, that enjoyable experience while you are learning about this nutrition stuff. You're not doing it all on your own. You don't have to do things like this all on your own. Then another one would be creating rituals at the start and the end of the day. This is a really big one I work on with almost everybody. Is like, how do we make these habits into a ritual that we can consistently keep building into our days? So, morning and evening is a great time to have those things because we're not as distracted by work, what's going on, what's on our to-do list. We can carve out some time really to just focus on ourselves. Um, and it doesn't have to just be a daily thing either. It could be something like meal prep Sunday, making that a fun ritual, really over romanticizing it and making it something where you stop at your favorite coffee shop, grab a coffee, plan out your meals for the week, plan some other stuff out, do a little journaling session, go to the store, come home, light a candle, listen to your favorite music, call a friend while you're putting away groceries, doing a little bit of prepping, something like that, where it is really you're stacking a lot of healthy things together, you're making it enjoyable, and it's just going to be more likely that you're gonna continue that. Um, so cravings and identifying our cravings does take some self-awareness as well. The next law after cue craving is response, the habit that you would perform. This could also be our thoughts. So how do we think about this? Do we think about that meal prep session as this is so much work, I hate doing it, or I'm excited to do this. This is going to make my week so much easier and smoother and healthier. And I'm excited to do this. I know I'm going to be happy about this afterwards. And then the last one is the reward. And so at the end of every habit, we either feel satisfied or there's something that they can teach us. Like, okay, this eating this meal did not feel good, and I do feel sluggish after. So it's all about learning like how do we feel after we do something? Do we need to focus more on that delayed gratification? Is it something where, okay, I don't feel like that really made much of a change in my life, like that workout, but maybe I need to give myself a little bit of a reward. I need to have a habit stacking list can be really helpful where we list out a few things we're going to focus on that week and then we check them off when we do them. Even that little act of reassurance that we checked it off can really help our brain feel that reward. Okay? Because it is not easy right away. So, we learned what habit stacking is, what those four laws are, how to start assessing and thinking backwards on the habits that we currently are doing, things that we want to start. So let's go through how to set some goals. So these are going to be SMART goals. If you've ever heard that acronym, SMART, it stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time oriented. Okay. So rather than being vague and saying something like, I will eat a Mediterranean style diet to lose weight, we can break that down into smaller, more specific things like I will make a grocery list weekly, including at least 2 different fruits, 3 different veggies, a type of nut, and 3 servings of fish. Okay, so maybe your entire week isn't Mediterranean, but you have those things in place. You're gonna start committing there, starting to get 1% better. You could say, I will listen to my favorite show or podcast while I put away and prepare these ingredients for my meals. And then I will share a photo of my meal prep with my accountability partner or my coach. All right, so repairing some of those difficult things with more fun things. The next one is I will track my calories and macronutrients. Okay, that's a great goal. Again, we want to be doing that. How are we going to make it a little more achievable and realistic for us? So maybe we say, I will track my meals 3 days a week for a while. If you do that for a while, you're going to gain a lot of different insights. Okay, you're going to see what those calories and macros are at, and you're really going to start to learn. And on those days you don't track, you're going to be like, okay, I remember that this meal was about this much, and this is how it feels in my body. This is how full and energized I feel. Or this is how, yeah, if it doesn't make me feel full, then maybe I need to adjust. I will focus on protein as my first target to hit daily. I will meet with Kelly weekly to better understand my macronutrient needs. Next goal would be if you're trying to think about a mindset type of goal, about stop thinking negatively about previous weight loss failures or about how you don't feel like you know enough. Instead of doing that, focus on rituals and systems that you know will help you to feel more confident. So I will journal positive affirmations. I will read books about mindset for 30 minutes a week. Or I didn't put this one on the slide, but I will make a vision board. This is such a great practice to get into to really start training our mind to think about our higher self, where we can be. Think about what we are working towards every day because it doesn't feel like the progress is being made when it's 1%, but over time that is compounding and you are making so much progress. So, when we are thinking about all of these changes and what habits we want to avoid, also know that like you don't need to be perfect with all of these. Sometimes there's a saying about or just an idea that I often bring up that we can choose harm reduction and still get a lot of health benefits, right? If we are, used to drinking 20 grams of sugar, or maybe it's not a great example. Maybe we're consuming 50 grams of sugar a day, and going down to 10 grams is just not quite doable right now, or we're struggling to find those alternatives. And we go down to 20 grams, you're still going to see a huge benefit. Okay. If we aren't able to get to the gym 4 days a week and we can just go 2 to 3 days a week and get a good quality workout in, we're still getting a lot of benefits and we're still reducing harm. Okay. There is no perfect plan here. All right. So, some of the habits we do want to avoid is, of course, being more sedentary. So, making sure we have those walks into our day. We have a plan for physical activity. Eating out more, that's again just going to expose us to more of those refined ingredients, probably higher calorie drinks, bigger portions, more consumption of the highly refined foods and carbs and sugars, a more inflammatory diet that's lacking in fiber. That's one of the key things I want you to know is that if we're lacking in fiber, our diet is just going to be more inflammatory. And then being a grazer, again, that's not great for our blood sugar. It's going to cause more glucose insulin spikes. And we're probably not choosing protein rich foods when we're snacking. They're a lot harder to find in snacks. Sleep deprivation and stress are a huge piece as well that we do really want to pay attention to. So, hopefully, you gained some insight here on where you can start working backwards towards your health goals. And please reach out to me if you're interested in some support. My one on one coaching program, specifically for people who are losing weight using peptides, so GLP-1s like semaglutide, is just a really quick snapshot to dive deeper into all of these topics. You get 4 coaching calls spread out over 3 months. It's my most affordable program because I know people are paying out of pocket for peptides oftentimes. And then I do also offer other one-on-one coaching programs that include lab work and personal training. So please reach out if you do need some support, and I will link some of those resources on the YouTube and in the Facebook group. And I will, yeah, I will talk to you guys soon.